All right. I will call to order the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission on this, the 8th day of 2020. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Harris? I think you're muted, Mr. Harris.
Present.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yep.
I saw present. Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Hopper?
Here.
Mr. Moan? I'm not seeing Mr. Moan. And Mr. Alexander, non-voting advisor? Let the record show they are absent at this time, but I will watch to see if they do log in.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum, though, 4 members present. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our November meeting?
Motion's that.
Motion
I'll
by
second
Mr.
that.
Harris, second by Mr. Hoover, I think that was. Any comments, questions from anybody? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Maybe
opposed,
somebody
nay.
forgot to write it down.
Minutes are approved. All right. Let's see. New business resolution 2020-15, a resolution of the City of Greenwood Redevelopment Commission approving and consenting to the sale and assignment of the City of Greenwood, Indiana Economic Development Subordinate Tax Increment Revenue Bonds of 2019, Series A, Echelon Project. Anybody want to talk about this, or do we all know what it is?
This is the same thing we voted on last night.
Yeah, same thing last night.
Yeah.
Adam,
And then
you
Yeah.
unmuted
Do you want me to
yourself
give
there.
an update for the group? Yeah, I was just going to ask if you think for the good of the group it'd be. Yeah, so I can give a little bit of context, the same I gave to the council last night, but just for any of you on that aren't aware, the Verge project, which is owned by the Garrett companies, received a developer purchase back bond as part of their project. They've since constructed, they've leased out. Many of you have toured the facility. And ultimately, as a success of that project, there was actually another Indianapolis firm that's actually looking to buy that development. I don't know or not if there's any disclosure requirements with the name, but it is an Indianapolis-based firm. It's a firm that the city is familiar with. It's a top-tier management firm. And whereas the Garrett company is more focused on building and selling, this company is more focused on long-term, operations with the site. So, as part of a condition of sale, it's my understanding that they are asking Garrett companies to pass through their bond. So thereby, any obviously taxes that are paid on that development within the amortization period would be rebated back to the subsequent buyer. So essentially, this resolution is allowing them, and is enabling resolution allowing them to move forward with that and move forward with their sale of the property.
Any questions from anyone? I gave away the buyer last night. I don't know if I was supposed to or not. Nobody said not to, so I may have totally messed that up. I didn't see it in the paper anywhere today, so I don't know that I gave anything away. But
Nobody listens to you,
I didn't sign a non-disclosure agreement with anybody, and so and I'm not.
Is it a
talking to
done
anybody.
deal?
I don't believe it's a done deal. My understanding was that this was a condition of closure.
Well, I'll move we approve resolution 2020-15 as presented.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Any questions from any members of the commission? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, nay. None. It's approved. I think 4-0. Thank you. Next up, our annual TIF presentation for 2020.
All right, that is me. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, and let's see. I'm actually going to bear with me one second. I'm going to pause my video just through the presentation just to save some bandwidth. Hold on one second. Okay, can someone confirm that they can see the presentation cover slides?
We can see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for joining. I see a lot of our tax district friends on the line as well. We welcome you. We appreciate you joining and taking the time to listen in. We've especially made this presentation actually for you and your teams, and we'll show you where it's shared online as well after the call. So we appreciate you joining today. With regards to this presentation, because of the nature of the meeting, a recording of this is actually already on the website as well, so that immediately following the session, anyone from any of the taxing units that were unable to listen into today's live presentation of this are able to access it as well. So this presentation is in response to relatively recent legislation. So back in 2018, through House Enrolled Act 1242, this was enacted. It was additional reporting responsibility of a redevelopment commission to annually make this presentation to the overlapping taxing units. So that would be obviously the schools, the county libraries, any in the city for that matter, with respect to the Redevelopment Commission. And there were three criteria that the presentation needed to include. The first is an overview of the commission's budget, their long-term plans, and then the impact of each of those taxing units. Gave a version of this presentation last fall as well, and this is our iteration of that presentation for the 2020 calendar year. Starting with the commission's budget with respect to the allocated property tax proceeds. So there's actually two different amounts of budgeted funds. The first with regards to the Redevelopment Commission is the general fund budget. So this is the amount that redevelopment commissions have, specifically the City of Greenwood's Redevelopment Commission has budgeted within the city's overarching budget, specifically within the general fund. So this is annually approved by the Common Council. It's a department of that fund, specifically it's Department 651. And these dollars are used for member per diems, they're used for purchase of office supplies, and any other non-TIF eligible fees and professional service fees. For the 2021 year, the proposed budget in total from the general fund is $35,100. The next category of TIF appropriations or RDC budgets are the actual tax increment finance appropriations. So these are approved annually by the Redevelopment Commission. They are subject to a public hearing. They establish the maximum annual expenditure level. So essentially, they set the maximum disbursement amount. And the calculation methodology that the city has used for years now is essentially you're doing these in the current year. So the first estimate is to calculate the year-end cash balance. Then it's a projection of the next year's forecasted tax increment finance revenue for each area. And then there's adjustments made for any new debt service obligation, as well as any of the surplus TIF transfers. And ultimately, the resulting figures are what are actually used to appropriate both the allocation funds as well as the surplus funds. And the chart to the right shows an illustration of how that, for the 2021 year, how that's broken down by TIF. So you can still see overwhelmingly it's the east side of Fry Road that's the majority of that. And I would just notate again that this doesn't necessarily correlate to the planned level of expense. It's really more of an exercise of establishing the maximum annual expenditure that could be approved by the commission. Looking a little closer at actuals and instead of budgetary figures, This is a snippet from the 2019 RDC annual report that's available online as well. And this is looking at the receipts, expenses, and other financial sources and uses by TIF area. So this was as of December 31st, 2019, and you can see the amount of TIF revenue and other revenue sources that were collected by area, as well as expenses by classification for each of those areas as well. The 2020 amounts will be made available shortly after calendar year end as part of a year-end summary. And then ultimately, when the 2020 RDC annual report is, these tables will be updated for the 2020 totals. Same year, 2019, but looking at fund balances. And in this case, what we mean by fund balance is specifically cash and investments on hand. So with the nature of RDC and TIF, not all funds on hand are essentially created equal. Some are obviously generated for by the allocation fund. So these are net available to the extent that there's not any debt issued against that TIF area. So these are essentially where the TIF proceeds come in. So for some of the newer TIFs that do not have debt obligations, essentially the allocation area is the surplus fund. Whereas in some of the older TIFs that do have debt obligations, that allocation fund receipts the tax increment revenue and then ultimately reserves a portion for the next debt service payment. So essentially it's a reserve for account, and the surplus funds in that case are what are used for pay-go and new project commitments. In addition to the surplus and allocation funds, the City and the Redevelopment Commission also maintain bond proceed accounts as well as debt service reserve amounts. These balances for the bond proceeds are obviously restricted for specific projects that were authorized in the bonds. And then ultimately the debt service reserve funds are part of the actual covenants as part of each of the issuances of those bonds. And unless they're used prior, they're intended to be reserved for the final principal and interest payments at the end of the amortization. This is an example of the capital stack, if you will, of the outstanding bonds as of the end of this year. And this is broken down by TIF area. So you can see the east side, Fry Road, and Central are the current three areas that have debt issued against them. And you can see by issuance, the year, the rate, year of maturity, as well as the original par amount, the current amount of principal retired this year, interest paid this year, total debt service, as well as the beginning and ending principal balances for each. You can see in this case, there were two new bond issuances in 2020. One was from Fry Road and one was from Central. Neither of those had any debt service activity this year, but did increase the total principal outstanding. And then down below are the developer-backed bonds. This was the Echelon project. So the former motion with the sale, this was the project that's being sold. So this will be passing through to the new buyer, but nonetheless will still be an obligation, future obligation of the Redevelopment Commission. So one of the exercises we try to go through to get an understanding of the taxing units that are impacted is first just seeing where the Redevelopment Commission currently overlaps in these different tax district partners. And so we do that by looking at the various different tax district codes. So the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission has many different tax district codes across its various different TIF areas. And you can see in this case, the captured assessed values are being taxed at the cumulative tax district rate certified rates. So that's certainly where that overlap and that impact applies as far as taking the cumulative rate by the captured. And you can see how the rates are different across the various different units, as well as obviously a comparison by year. I put a little asterisk here in 2021. The certified rates aren't currently yet available. We use the Department of Local Government Finance county budget order and county specific information for this. So currently, when you see some of our forward estimates, they're a carry forward of 2020's rates. Speaking of the forward-looking estimates, mostly just looking at 2021 here across all TIFs, our current forecast is that 11% year-over-year captured assessed value growth. So these are known. So that when you look at the aggregate across all the different TIF areas, the cumulative year-over-year growth is right around 11%. The way that breaks out is it's about just under $506 million. We're estimating that produces $12.65 million in tax increment finance revenue. And our current best estimates are that by the end of this year, therefore beginning of next year, there's about $12.3 million in cash on hand, of which only $1.8 million of that will be in actual surplus funds. And the 2021 debt service next year is anticipated to be $7.75 million, with the cumulative outstanding debt as of January 1st, as shown from that previous table, at $51.75 million. Looking at a forward debt coverage ratio is one of the various different items that are looked at. With regards to the east side, it's going forward-looking debt coverage ratio is 147%. Fry Road is 115% for 2021. It does increase over the subsequent years. And then Central is at 285%. The next category of 3 is the long-term plan for the different allocation areas. So first, just to explain what an economic development area is for any that are viewing this that aren't as familiar. They're authorized by Indiana Code. They're established by Redevelopment Commission and council action. For the city of Greenwood, the first economic development area was established in 1997. That's the east side allocation area. And the EDAs present potential boundaries for the allocation areas. Greenwood currently has 4 distinct economic development areas that support 17 different distinct tax district allocation areas. You can view the boundary maps online. Here's a snippet of the current 4 different EDAs and any of their expansions relative to the city boundaries. And the plans for the allocation area. So for each redevelopment and economic development area that's created has a plan that's associated with it. And the plans can be revised and updated from time to time. There's a public process to do that. But ultimately, the plans are usually designed in a nature where they're more long-term type planning documents. So with regard to the implementation of those plans, there's continual work, almost bi-weekly meetings go on to look at what was in the long-term planning documents as far as what the current needs are and what the various different opportunities are, and those are constantly trying to be prioritized. Adjustments to the plans may happen over time and have happened over time. And for more information on that, those are made available on the City of Greenwood's website, as well as through the state's Gateway portal. You can see a lot of the plan and creation details as well. One of the items, those plan documents are great, but I wanted to just kind of provide snippets of actually some of the language in those documents, just so that everyone has a sense of what the intent of them are. So these are actual quotes directly from the economic development plans across the Redevelopment Commission. Just to read a few of these, so they're intended to benefit public health, safety, morals, and the welfare of city residents. They're intended to increase economic well-being. They're designed to promote significant opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And then really the last one obviously is critical as well, as far as they're a main attraction and retention of jobs component. Their goal is to increase the tax base and then ultimately improve the diversity of the tax base as well. drilling a little deeper still. So I mentioned the 4 different development areas and the 17 different actual tax districts that those sit in. But really, it's these allocation areas that drive everything. So in Greenwood, there's the oldest TIF area is Greenwood East Side, followed by Fry Road. And then there is the I-65 East TIF area. There's the Central Expansion area, as well as the Southwest and Worsville Road areas. You can see here the state code, as well as whether or not it has the original area, if there was any expansions or amendments to it, as well as its first tax year, its estimated duration, and its estimated last pay year for planning purposes. A few years back, there was a change to the sunset provisions in life and duration of TIF areas. You can see that with these asterisks here. So for any relatively new TIF area that's created, in this case, Southwest and Worsville Road are, as you see, fairly recent areas that have been created. They don't instantaneously start with a sunset or a maximum duration. That duration is 25 years, and it starts from the issuance of bonds. So, for example, the central TIF area last year did not have any bonds issued, so it would have had an asterisk. It issued its first bonds this year, so it now has a 25-year term. Looking at the various different projects that are coming out of the plans, so these are updated totals by priority or outcome area. So the blue are economic development projects, the red is quality of life, and the yellow is infrastructure. You can see here that over the next few years, the predominant investment areas are purely around economic development, within the second area being quality of life. I'll drill into each of these more specifically here in a moment. But you can see there's a significant amount of TIF dollars planned to be invested in the area to promote these three outcome areas. Excuse me. So looking at the infrastructure projects that are planned, really the main areas there are intersection improvements, improving east-west traffic flow, providing safe pedestrian crossings, and actually creating access to the parks. You can see the various different projects that roll up to those outcome areas as well. So some of the, County Line and Madison Avenue, Stop 18, Smith Valley roundabouts, Worsville Road, school crossing improvements, as well as Worsville Road Interchange Park. Looking at the economic development projects, these are really focused around revitalizing downtown and then continuing to stimulate new business and new investment in the city. So some of these would be like 523 South Madison redevelopment, continuation of the GROW program for downtown, as well as continued infrastructure improvements along Madison Avenue, and then development and infrastructure development at Project Waterside, which is the County Line and I-65 sites. Looking at the quality of place projects, they're really around park development and building out those amenities, as well as just improving walkability with the existing system. So you'll see some trail connectivity, specifically in the Fry Road TIF, as well as building out the Worsville Road Interchange Park as well. The last area is the impact to each of the taxing units. From an effect standpoint, one of the things we wanted to look at was just really how the TIF funds are being used. So, traditionally the TIF for the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission has been really focused on enhancing, upgrading, and constructing public infrastructure improvements that otherwise would not be feasible without the TIF dollars. So some example costs that these improvements may include would be real estate planning, land acquisition, design and development costs, architectural fees, legal, financing, accounting fees, advertising and publication fees, expenses related to the issuance of TIF bonds, as well as the servicing of those debt and other obligations, and then obviously any other eligible expense as allowed by Indiana code. As far as the impacted taxing units, this is the City of Greenwood, Greenwood Community School Corporation, Clark Pleasant Community School Corporation, Center Grove Schools, Park Township, Johnson County Solid Waste, Greenwood City Library, Johnson County Library, and the state, and really all the residents that overlap in these areas as well. Again, we welcome everyone that joined today or is listening to the recorded version of this. We sent a public notice of this meeting back in November, and glad you could listen in. As far as the long-term effect of the overlapping taxing district, from a redevelopment perspective, the goal is to create jobs and ultimately create infrastructure and create things that entice and bring a new investment into these areas that otherwise would not be feasible. And we hope that long term that new investment creates these new jobs, bring new residents into the city and the areas, that these new residents who work here pay into local income tax and food and beverage taxes, and we hope that they buy homes and they pay taxes, raise their families, put their kids in schools, and get involved in school programs. We hope that they patronize businesses and ultimately just kind of create a virtuous cycle there that long term can be that diverse tax base that we all need. And then ultimately, we really just hope that the private sector investment starts to increase organically and as a result of the redevelopment investment. There's some great resources online, specifically AIM, which is Accelerating Indiana Municipalities, puts on. It's a great video that talks about the various different ways that TIF is used as an economic development engine. It's about a couple minutes long. I won't share it now, but for those of you that would like to learn more, I would encourage you to watch that. But really what it talks about is that ultimately quality of place is becoming a critical reason for businesses to decide to locate there. And because residents, essentially talented employees, are choosing first where they want to live and then figuring out where they want to work. So creating a really vibrant place is a huge attractant from an economic development standpoint. And TIF is critical in that regard, because otherwise having a funding source to be able to provide the infrastructure and those amenities is a challenge. So looking really at the core of what TIF is intended to be used for is it creates an area, obviously establishes the base. The investments are created and hope to create an incremental assessed value by which the incremental taxes that are captured from that additional growth are really the repayment source for the bonds that get invested into that area to grow it. And then ultimately, the TIF expires, it's terminated, and all of the taxing districts, city included, are left with a larger pie, if you will, to tax, to be able to provide essential services to their constituents and citizens long term. So as far as what that means from a trajectory and planning perspective, so this goes back to Pay 2011. You can see at that time there was about 250 million of captured assessed value. As a result of a lot of the growth in those areas and new development, you can see that that's increased to over 500 million for Pay 2021. And you can see, again, the bulk of that is still in East Side, Fry, and Central, with some of the newer TIF areas starting to come online. looking at pay 2020 versus pay 2021. When we look at the differences, the last graph was looking at really just the incremental. This is looking at the change in dollars year over year between the base and incremental. So you can actually see, for example, if we look at the central TIF area, not only is the aggregate amount growing in the captured values or in the total net assessed values, the actual base values in most cases are growing as well. So that's providing an opportunity for the local units to participate in that and get the tax rate benefits from that additional base assessed value, while at the same time being able to still have the long-term potential of the TIF sunset. Drawing a little bit further for some of you that are, within one, that may just be in one area or a group of other areas as opposed to looking in the aggregate. Across the different TIF areas, there's a pretty clear situation where, assuming just using a 30-year TIF life cycle, there's some of the areas that are much newer. So like Southwest and Worsfield Road, as a result of some of the abatement roll-off and growth in those areas, they're seeing year-over-year percent increases that are very high, right? And whereas some of the more mature TIF areas that are in the last 8 to 10 years of their life are seeing, growth rates that relatively are smaller, but they're still 6% and or so for those year-over-year changes. So the takeaway here is that the newer TIFs are obviously growing at a much faster rate. So then when we look at the actual cumulative growth rates here in a second, you'll see how that shakes out. As far as the TIF areas by dollar, you can see again that East Side is nearly 70%. Central actually took over second place for pay 2011, so it's now the second largest TIF by captured assessed value dollars, and then the Friarwood TIF is in third now with 11%. So this chart I mentioned a moment ago. So one of the measures, if you will, that the City of Greenwood's Redevelopment Commission has looked at for years now is the relative difference between the city's net assessed value growth as compared to the cumulative TIF growth. And if any of you are familiar with the term CAGR, it stands for compounded annual growth rate, essentially the geometric average of these. So essentially, the red line here is the TIF's annual percent growth rate in aggregate, whereas the blue line is the city's net assessed value change. Okay, and ultimately, what we're really trying to do is create these opportunities where there's large differences in growth between what the city realized and in the TIF, while obviously still maintaining a positive growth rate for the city. So when we look at over a 10-year period of time, the city during that time grew at an average of 3.7%, whereas the TIF grew at just over 7%. So almost double the growth rate, which if you then extrapolate that forward, you can see that the long-term direction here, if that growth rate can become sustainable, there's quite a bit of potential captured and assessed value that would be able to be at sunset added to those base values. So the long-term direction is to try to maintain that multiple of growth on average, so that it makes sense to keep that captured and for that long-term growth, as opposed to it being in the base. So I know I covered a lot there, and this is a virtual presentation. So as far as additional information, there's a lot out there. So I would encourage you, if you're interested, the City of Greenwood's website contains under the Finance Department page, has all of the monthly and annual RDC reports published. I would also encourage you, there's a lot about redevelopment and TIF in the 2019 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, as well as we referenced the RDC General's budget, so it would be in the 2021 adopted budget as well. Not to mention, this recording will be shared on that website as well. And then lastly, for any of the taxing unit partners that are on this call or listening to this presentation, the City Redevelopment Commission does have a collaborative project agreement. This was a resolution that was passed a few years ago. It has its own application and approval process. I know of one or two cases where that's been used for a successful project. So just want to reiterate that program is available. If you have any questions, to reach out. Otherwise, that concludes the presentation, and we hope it provides meaningful information for your budget and planning purposes. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. All right. Any commission members have any questions for Adam? All right. We will move on. Consideration of professional services agreement with Hirons Advertising Public Relations for 2021.
Sorry, David. That was an excellent presentation. I just want to throw that out. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank
Adam
you,
always
Mr.
does a good job. Always.
Yep.
Yeah. I can speak to this and the next one, obviously, I believe it's Adams. And so this is the exact same contract as it was last year. We pull it forward essentially. And the variety of things, if you follow Hirons on social or news releases or even just Facebook on all the redevelopment construction projects. We can delve into some of the facts on outreach and things if we wanted, but this basically just carries their contract forward with the Redevelopment Commission for 2021.
Yeah. Amanda, one thing I did notice is under the term, it still lists 2020, and I assume we want that to be January 2021 to December 2021. So
we will make that correction. Thank you for catching that.
Yep, no problem. Any questions from anybody? All right, if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Harris. I think, anyway. Motioned at the exact same time, but that's what I heard first, so that's what we're going with. All right, any further questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, motion is approved 4-0, I think, unless Mr. Moan has shown up. But I haven't heard anything. Let me scroll through here. Nope. All right. Moving on. Consideration of PSA with ADS Consulting LLC for 2021.
Yeah, that is me as well. And that is Adam Stone, who just gave us that lovely presentation. So this keeps his contract, I believe, exactly the same, just changes the year. And we will all get to hear that lovely presentation and many more like it next year. Colored charts and graphs for all in 2021.
That's exciting. Something to look forward to in 2021.
That's right.
Yay. Any questions for Kevin or Adam on this? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion that.
All right, Mr. Harris, thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hoover, appreciate it. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, motion approved 0. Old business, I pulled the Cummins agreement at request of the city, so we're going to move through that one. Capital project reports for Old City Park, change order number 10, paving, guardrail, parking lot, water fountain, and a bike lane. And I believe this is in the amount of $69,403.
Yeah, so unless we miss something, I believe this is the last change order for that park. It was all completed and delivered. We ended up, well under 10% for change orders. A lot of it was stuff that couldn't be found until you started digging. And amazingly, I saw some kids out there today and some people out walking. I think next year, particularly when the weather gets warm and people feel comfortable, especially hopefully gathering at some point again next year, the year after, it's been a great asset, and this will kind of close it out. So has to approve that change order.
All right. Any questions for Kevin? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Mr. Campbell. Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Hoover. Thank you. I will say, my kids and my wife have taken to going after dark and walking around and seeing things, and they are really enjoy it. And it's lovely at nighttime as well, not just in the daytime. So, which nowadays is right now at 5:15. It's dark outside, so it doesn't take long. All right. No further questions or comments. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, motion is approved 4-0. Main Street, Madison Avenue Streetscape Project, consideration of third PSA with REA. I'm assuming this is you as well, Kevin?
Yes, it is. And so this is a amendment to that original PSA. We have done the design. This allows us to rebid this project. It was shown in Adam's plan. This is the narrow areas between the old buildings downtown. It allows us to do it kind of at different cost levels. So some with just asphalt roads and minimal amounts of kind of just some decorative bricks at the paving. Some with just using some stamped treatments. So this will allow us to have 3 levels of cost for when we bid this. And those different road profiles require different engineering setups, and so that's what the change is to the original contract. But we'd like to bid that hopefully in the spring, and then continue that last phase of the north of Main Street, Madison, as well as from Madison to Meridian, assuming we can get some good bids and fix that kind of one of the bigger accessibility challenges left in the city.
Right. Well, I will make a motion to approve then. You guys are getting a little skittish out there in the audience. A little slow on the motion, so I'll make the first one. I'll move to approve.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Hoover. Any questions or comments for Kevin from the commission members? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this PSA with REA indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right. Motion is approved 4-0. Madison Avenue Streetscape Phase 3, change order number 1 for $16,285.33.
Yep. So this project, just for greater knowledge, about to be to go into winter mode. So we'll pull back the barrel some and add some striping. We got pretty much have the whole east side done, which includes that sidewalk extension, the areas like where the farmers market is. And so when we started settling up on quantities, there was some tying into some of the old stormwater structures, as well as some of the electric that'll be needed for lights later on. So we're still within the amount of money approved for this project, and look forward to starting up again on this in the spring on the other side of the road. So I ask you to approve this change order for $16,285.33.
All right.
I'll make
questions
the
for Kevin?
motion. No, I'll make the motion to approve that.
Thanks, Mr. Campbell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Harris, thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. All right, motion is approved 4-0. Financial report. The tax increment update, which I feel like we sort of just had, but I guess we're getting another one.
Yeah, no, this is just a standing item. I think I've given
okay.
you. I think I've given you all enough to.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Adam.
Yes, thanks.
Legal department, Mr. Hodson. He was, but now he's.
The only thing legal has is,
Oh, yeah.
no, I'm here. Only
All
thing
right.
legal has is we would request that you schedule a very brief special meeting for next Wednesday to
Okay.
the Cummins contract.
Okay. Do you want me to do that? Is that my call to call a special meeting?
Yeah, I think it is, Mr.
Procedure
President.
for that.
I would suggest
all right. Go ahead.
suggest that you confirm that there's at least 3 that are available, and I would propose, assuming that there are at least 3 are available, that 4:30, our regular time, is probably a good time to set it for on Wednesday, if everyone is available at that time.
Mr.
That
Campbell and I
Wednesday-
are already in a meeting on the 16th
Yes.
from 4 to
With-
5.
Yeah.
Can we do it on Thursday?
Thursday the 17th.
I'm good with Thursday.
Thursday works for me.
I
Okay.
can do it as well.
Yes, I can
all
be
right.
there.
That is 3 of us at least. So,
So it's just a special meeting for a limited purpose, so it'll be very brief, I'm taking it.
I try to make all my meetings brief, Kevin, but yes, it should be
I know.
pretty
Even more
brief.
brief than usual, probably.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. If that'll work for at least 3 of us, we will call a special meeting next Thursday at 4:30 via where we're on here, WebEx.
WebEx.
I
Okay.
guess it is. Yep.
I will get the notice done.
All right. Thank you much. All right. Is that all, Sam?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks. Mr. Watson?
The only thing I have is just a brief update on the Neovia annual report. I was able to reach out and contact a representative from Neovia about the report. It was late in the month, so they haven't had time to actually submit a report yet. I suggested that if they were to get one submitted by the January meeting, that would be acceptable. And so I expect them to do that, though they have not yet confirmed that they're going to be able to do that. But that's the update.
All right. Thank you. Turning the page here. Mr. Wright.
There's nothing from the controller's office.
Okay. Mr. Johnston.
Nothing from the engineer either.
Excellent news. Mr. Mayor.
I have nothing either. I want to help you get this along quickly.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I could
Claims
introduce
docket.
my-
Or you could introduce what?
I'll introduce you
All
to
right.
my barber.
Okay. Appreciate that. I need that. I need the help. Somebody who does beards is what I really need. I think I can manage. I can manage the hair. I haven't figured out how to deal with the beard yet. Yeah.
Campbell
All right.
would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would. Do you have a friends and family discount, Mr. Campbell?
They, well, you have to get it colored gray though.
Okay. Well, I'm halfway there, I think, for the most part.
Brian, I think you and I are going to have to join the crowd or we're going to stand out.
Right? Right?
Yep. All right, December 2020 claims docket in the amount of $660,143.69. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Campbell. Any questions for anybody? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. All right, motion approved 4-0. We do have a 2020 carryover list that they gave me. I won't publicly shame the 3 people that are on here, but I probably have to, unless you guys have seen it. We have 3 carryovers for Mr. Harris, Mr. Hoover, and Mr. Watson in his professional capacity. So, is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Well, I will second it. Are we going to have enough people to vote on this? If Mr. Harris and Mr. Hoover abstain from, one of you is going to have to vote on your own check here.
I'll approve Brian.
I'll take Kevin's.
All right. All right. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right. 4-0 it is. To the bank, gentlemen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. All right. Appointment to the Greenwood Community Development Corporation. We have a current appointment. And I don't know, I probably have it written down here somewhere, but I don't. Amanda?
It's Michelle Strummins.
Okay. And you reached out, correct? Is that true?
I did. I have not heard back from her, but she has been your sole appointee for the duration, which I want to say is 2014. The GCDC has been around.
Okay. I hate to reappoint somebody without even asking them, but we can if you guys want to. What's the will of the commission?
Yeah, I think we ought to go ahead.
All right.
Me too.
You want to make
I'll
that
make
motion
the
in
motion
a second
that we
then?
appoint Michelle Strummins.
All right. Motion by Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Harris, I think I heard.
Yep.
All right. Any questions or comments for anybody? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right. Motion approved 4-0. 2 things are in the packet that maybe we voted on last time that I don't remember, Amanda.
Yes.
Real
Valbridge.
service contract. Do I just need to sign these 2? Okay.
Yes, those
Will
are
do.
so Daniel can get that easement appraised at the Oakham Barrel, Vala Vista traffic light.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. All right. Cool. I will do that. Anything else from anybody?
This has nothing to do with the RDC, but Center Grove football team went undefeated this year and won the state championship. And Mr. Watson's son, Austin, was named, I believe, to first team All-State as a kicker for Center Grove. So is that correct, Mr. Watson?
Well, I did hear the Max Prep, which is a sporting service, did name him as All-State. I haven't heard any others, but yes, it's an honor, and I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, well, he did a great job all year, and he was missed the game or 2 he was out. So anyway, well, I wanted to congratulate Austin and the Center Grove football team.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Excellent. Congratulations.
Is it too late to transfer to Greenwood?
Yeah, I think Austin's a senior.
Darn it.
All right. Well, hearing nothing else, we will adjourn until next month, or until Thursday, I guess. The 16th.
Until next Thursday.
Until next
Gentlemen.
Thursday. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.